Given how little people talk about Sonic Lost World in the modern day, you'd think that the game committed a crime so heinous that it'd need to be put on some kind of a registry and get permission from an entire neighborhood just to move in. But despite the overwhelming myth this poor game got back in 2013, I think it's about time it gets an honest second chance. So sit back in my dad's forbidden chair and allow me, Meriden, Connecticut's Pee Wee Boxing League champion 4 years in a row, Cameron all one word, to tell you why Sonic Lost World should get re-released on the Switch and even the PS5. Okay, so seeing as how I think the game should get ported over to modern consoles, I think it's pretty obvious that I liked it. And if you're here to tell me that I'm wrong, then chances are you're probably lying, seeing as how I'm only like one of 5 people on the entire planet who actually bought a Wii U. So unless you're one of those 4 other people I just mentioned, there's no way in hell that you could actually play it at Hotshot. Well, I mean, I guess you could have played the 3DS version, and if that's what you're about to kick me and the family jewels in the comments section about, then I wouldn't blame you, because that version of the game did in fact suck Horsewinky. But in all seriousness though, I do get that the majority of the people who actually did play the game on the Wii U found it to be a bit underwhelming.
I'd like to try something new, but Sonic should be faster.
And look, I'm not saying it's the greatest game in the entire series or anything like that, but at the risk of getting permadoxed, I think it's one of the better 3D Sonic games if I'm being completely honest. Kind of feels like Sega's been trying to get Sonic back into people's good graces, and since human beings typically look at the past through rose-colored glasses, it's honestly pretty smart of Sega to not remind people of how bad some of the Sonic games were by re-releasing them on modern consoles. I mean, don't get me wrong, Sonic Adventures 1 and 2 are definitely some of my all-time favorite games, period. But I'd be lying if I said that that opinion's not being influenced by a lot of nostalgia, though. Because let me tell you, they certainly don't hold up as well as a lot of other games from the same era, such as, I hate to say it, Mario 64. Based on how poorly the HD remasters for those games were received on the PS3 and Xbox 360, I know I'm not the only one who feels this way. I mean, Sonic Adventures 1 and 2 aren't horrible or anything like that, and there are a lot of parts of the games that are still really fun today. But all I'm saying is that I think Sega's pretty smart for letting Sonic lay low for a little while is all. Because honestly, with each passing day, people are going to start forgetting more and more of the bad Sonic memories and start remembering the good ones. And the better Sonic's public image is, then the happier people are going to be when a new game finally comes out. So with that being said, no, I don't think that Sonic Lost World should get a second chance at life before a brand new game. I'm just saying that I think it deserves one once people aren't as irritated with the franchise anymore. Granted, most Sonic fans like Colors and Generations, but they were still a little bit on edge after Secret Rings and Black Knight. So when Sonic Lost World had the audacity to try and be a little bit different, people were ready to pounce on it pretty hard. Again though, I'm not saying that Sonic Lost World's a perfect game by any means, but I really gotta insist that it's a lot better than people said it was back in the day, and now that enough time's passed, I think a few more people might be willing to admit that having a run button was actually a really good idea. We'll get to the run button in a little bit, but remember when people hated Super Mario Sunshine and Wind Waker back in the day? Well, these days, those games are so popular that it's actually illegal in some countries to say a bad word about them. And just look at a game like Skyward Sword, for example. At first, everyone loved it to the point where riots started forming in front of GameSpot HQ for giving the game a 7.5 out of 10. But then out of nowhere, most of the Zelda fanbase decided that the game sucked for being too linear. And then after Nintendo released the open world Breath of the Wild, people were finally ready to forgive Skyward Sword and appreciate it for what it was. But had the remaster come to the Switch before Breath of the Wild, though, then it would have definitely gotten a much more polarizing reaction. In fact, most people weren't even able to appreciate Wind Waker because of its cel-shaded art style until after Nintendo gave us Twilight Princess. It was made to look more, well,
super badass and cool.
Giving the fanboys what they wanted, what they needed, what they desired, Nintendo skipped all that cel-shading crap and delivered the goods on Twilight Princess.
Of course, we do still need that home run Sonic game that everyone's been waiting for in order for Lost World to get a fair shake, so hopefully the next mainline game can get the job done with all the time they've been working on it. I mean, the movie was pretty good, right? So it's not impossible. Lost World's gamepad mechanics would take a little bit extra work to get going on the Switch and PS5, but it really shouldn't be too much trouble. And going back to the idea of there being a run button, I'm sure that does sound awful to a lot of you, but being one of the only people in the universe who's ever actually played this game, trust me, it actually works really well. At least it does in my opinion anyway, because one of my biggest gripes with 3D Sonic games is when it comes to the sections where you're not running at full speed. The only reason why a run button in a Sonic game sounds terrible to most people is because it implies that there's going to be parts in the game that are slow. But when you think about it for like 5 seconds, literally every Sonic game to date's slow for like half the playthrough. Personally, I think every Sonic game should just have you running non-stop from beginning to end. You know what, if you've absolutely got to have slower sections in Sonic games though, then they control 1,000 times better if you have the option to shift gears and slow the frig down. I mean, Sonic the Hedgehog games have essentially always been 2 different games with the exact same controls and physics, so I've always found it a bit frustrating to some extent to try and jump around in platforms with the sensitivity of the controls being catered to running at high speeds. This was never really a problem in the Genesis games, because while Sonic was faster than Super Mario World, it still wasn't nearly as fast as the series would eventually become, which is probably why it was a lot easier for Christian Whitehead and the gang to make Sonic Mania so good as opposed to all the games that Team Sonic were making. But even though I'd prefer slow sections not being in Sonic games period, though, I could easily say that Lost World pulls them off the best, no questions asked. At least as far as the 3D series is concerned anyway. And honestly, I don't know why I'm the only one who seems to realize how much better Sonic controls in slower sections when he can slow them the frig down. Who knows though, maybe I'm just a weirdo for defending Lost World, but, I mean, hey, at least I'm not one of those freaks who like Sonic R, am I right? But even beyond all the slow sections though, the speed portions of Sonic Lost World are about as good as they ever were in any 3D Sonic game. In fact, the Desert Ruin Zone 2 level is probably one of the best 3D Sonic levels ever created in my opinion. Honestly, this is how I think 3D Sonic games ought to be, just run forward and don't stop. But sadly though, the rest of the game is nothing like this, and some of the wall running sections are frustrating as all hell, and not at all intuitive either. But hey, at least the music's fun, which, to be fair, was never really a problem with the Sonic franchise, no matter how bad the actual games got. But the graphics in Lost World stand out even for a Sonic the Hedgehog game with tons of bright colors. The story's literally forgettable, seeing as I couldn't tell you anything that happened, but, I mean, nobody's ever bought a Sonic game for the story before. Unauthorized adult Sonic films do not count, though. Not that I ever paid for them, though. Kui? Again, Sonic Lost World's not legendary or anything like that, but I really do think it's the most underrated Sonic title to date. And with that being said, I really hope it gets one more chance someday, and I mean, it is a mainline Sonic game, so it has to at some point, right? Even with Zelda, Yoshi, and Nights into Dreams DLC, I don't know if it'd be worth paying $60 for at retail, since it doesn't really take all that long to finish. Or for all we know, Sega could release a digital copy and then re-release it later on as a physical in the hopes of getting the same people to buy it again like they did with Sonic Mania. But hopefully Sega's not going to be a wiener and do that again. Regardless of how Sega releases it again though, I think the game deserves more than to just die on the Wii U. And I also think enough time's passed to where people would be a little more open-minded to it too. But anyway, that's all for today though. If you liked this video then, you should check out my video about Sega having me cut my broken Persona Q cartridge in half to get a download code. You'll excuse me though, I gotta go feed my adopted uncle now. Later!
So I want to say thank you to your loyalty, thank you for your support.